and gentlemen, welcome to Louco's Light Show. This is the next season, and today's topic is overcoming failure with my guest, Michael Alameo. And I'll see you in a bit to talk about more about it. Louco's Light Show, like I promised, we have Michael Alameo.
Alameo.
How you doing today,
Good,
bro?
man. How's everything?
Good. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Mike, as all of you know. I opened up Ottawa's first wellness center, lifestyle center with famous Corey Sheik.
Okay.
Been doing that for just over a year, so it's been a dream come true. Just living life right now.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. And where are you from?
Where am I from?
Yeah.
Born in Toronto, but my mom's from from Bangladesh, and then my dad's from Goa.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna read a poem for my viewers,
All right.
and then we'll get right to the questions
All
after.
right.
Failing can be a learning experience that can help you grow. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like Michael Jordan, didn't make the basketball team in high school, but joined the NBA and became a champion. Not just one title, but 6. Be aware when it comes to failure, but never settle for less, because you can be greater. Thank you again,
Yeah,
Michael.
man.
And what do you think about the poem?
I agree 100%, man. It's you're gonna fail continuously in your life, but it's not getting attached and seeing yourself as someone who continually makes mistakes.
Okay.
It's just an experience, right? So you learn from it, evaluate, reassess, and then move forward and continue to grow.
That's true. And what came to your mind when the last time you fell at something?
I think it changes over time, but in the beginning, you look at failure because we've been programmed so much to like kind of view failure as such a negative concept.
Okay.
So when I first started failing, it was like you go through a lot of like self-hatred. You start despising, you really develop a hatred towards failing at something. But over time, it's like once you learn that it's just straight up just an experience, right? And it's the same thing with like pain, where you look at failure and pain. They're the same thing because all they're doing is showing you that you need to there's something about you that needs to change, right? So with failing, it's changed over time for myself personally, but now I look at it as something like, okay, something didn't go the way I wanted it necessarily, what do I need to change to make it better, you know what I mean, to keep moving forward.
Okay.
But it wasn't necessarily always like that in the beginning.
Okay. And then like, would that answer, like in order to prevent a mistake,
Yeah.
like in the future, or like
Mhm.
right now, like did you make a plan? Like what do you do? Like what do you prepare yourself if you know you're gonna fail again at something?
Well, I would say the first thing is like you don't prepare to fail.
Okay.
But the second thing is that you know your purpose, you know what you're trying to do, you have a set goal or like a task or whatever you're looking to do, right? So you're moving forward, things are going well, and then suddenly obviously something goes wrong, right? You fail, quote unquote. You accept it for what it is, you know what I mean? It could be anything, everyone's failure is different, you know, and some are smaller, some are much larger than others, but you look at that event that happened, right, and you see, okay, this didn't go the way I necessarily wanted it to.
Okay.
What could I have done to change it? What could I have done to kind of make it better? You know what I mean? And you just remember that, and you make sure it doesn't happen again, right? Because again, like failing at something, you gotta stop. Everyone's gotta stop looking at it such a negative, like I gotta avoid it, right? Because failing is it's part of the process, right? It's part of the growth, it's part of the journey. You just gotta look at it. It's just a chance for you to kind of grow from it. It's a chance for you to learn something that you haven't learned before, something you didn't know. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
stop getting attached to that idea that like failing is
Okay.
the thing you should avoid.
And so your main plan is like prepare yourself not to fail at something, right? Just prepare yourself.
Kind of. It's like I said. It's stop. Biggest thing is stop looking at failing as something you should avoid.
Okay.
Right? It's obviously something nobody strives to fail
Okay.
at something. You know, you don't go into something saying like,
That's
oh,
true.
you know what I mean? But you have your goal, you have your purpose, whatever it is that you're looking to do, right? The failure is inevitable. You know what I mean? Like you read the Michael Jordan quote, the guy's failed like 100 times in his life. But you gotta stop looking at that as like, oh, I gotta, you know what I mean? Like it's such a negative concept, right? It's the pain and the failing. It's like, what do you learn from when you fail? You know what I mean? It's a change in perception, pretty much that comes along. You know, because I used to view failing as like, okay, like I hate it, I should avoid it, type thing. You know what I mean? But I continued making the same mistakes, right? It's the way you kind of view it. If something happens, like I said, you evaluate yourself from it. You know, what I mean? What have I learned, right? And then you reestablish yourself from
Okay.
there.
And so for you, that's your plan, you know, to like prevent.
Yeah, you could say that. You know what I mean? It's just okay, I get what you're saying. Preparation, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Preparing You know what I mean? Preparing yourself for what's coming up, that's key.
Okay, we'll be right back, and when we come back, we're gonna be talking about, some people that actually like focus on believing failure, like they always think they're gonna fail, and what's your point of view on that? We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I personally like to thank you for watching Louco's live show. It was a wonderful experience. Now, for the next season, we're gonna be focused on experiences. With my old guests and new guests, we're going to talk about new experiences. It could be good and bad. Don't miss it every Monday, MalaikaTV.com.
Hey guys, welcome to the second season of Maven Chronicles. I am your host, Grace Mayenen. Make sure you catch me every Wednesday on the Malaika TV network. I am talking to your local favorites about business and your story, so make sure you tune in and watch and see what the network is all about.
Back to Louco's live show with Michael Alameo, and before we left, we were talking about what's your point of view on people that actually believe they're gonna fail at something all the time? It's like that negativity.
Yeah. Well, there's so many different reasons why people kind of come up with that, like social conditioning. I don't know, your environment. There's so many different aspects. You know what I mean? So it's tough to kind of pinpoint one. The biggest one I'll always say is like the social conditioning, because we're trained to kind of view failure as such a negative type concept, right? It's like you look at failure. The only reason people fear failure is because they honestly fear what other people think of them, what people are going to think of them. You know what I mean? If you're constantly surrounded by people who have been successful, who have achieved greatness, they'd be the last people to kind of judge you on failing, because they failed. You know what I mean? Like Jordan's failed. There's countless other people. You know what I mean? The lower percentage of people that we surround ourselves with, the majority of the time, they don't necessarily fail at life, but they're always in this like stagnant kind of like, they never move too far. They're never moving in any kind of direction. They're just kind of there, right? So it's not that they're accomplishing anything great and they're not failing at the same time. So you just have to establish for yourself, what kind of life are you looking to live? You know what I mean? Do you want to live that upper, like lower percentage where you have what you want? You go through that pain, you go through that failure, you get mocked. You know what I mean? Like there's so much different negative things that come along with it, but are you willing to go through that kind of stuff, you know what I mean, to make it to the top? And that's what it comes down to, you know what I mean? Not caring what other people think, and just finding your purpose, finding out what you want to do in life, and then just staying focused on it 100% of the time. Very
good answer, man. And what about yourself? Like the first time you made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Like, did you take it out on people? Like, yes or no? What?
Yeah, no. Like, I'd be lying if I said I didn't take it out on people, right? There's different ways we take it out on people. I didn't like punch like someone in the face or something, but you start getting frustrated with people, but that only comes because like my perception at the time was I'd fail, and I'd look at everyone else but myself on like who to blame. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You might like fail an exam, prof doesn't know how to teach. You know what I mean? Hit the gym, can't gain weight, or like getting too fat, like blame my mom for like cooking with too much oil. You know what I mean? Like you look at every aspect of like how to blame anything but yourself. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the reasons over the past year why I've grown so much, is that I've understood. And it had a lot to do with my environment, you know, like being around with Corey, being around with like people who have made it or who are on the path. It's taking responsibility for everything that you're doing, you know what I mean? You fail at something, it's, okay, like, this is what I did wrong, right? Even if you're working with someone, you know what I mean? It's like, what can I do to improve myself? It's overwhelming at first, when I first started doing that, because you start taking on everything, you know what I mean? I've had kind of like the habit of like caring about what other people think. Exactly. So when I started taking responsibility, then you really start like, okay, how can like, I don't want to hurt this person, or I don't want to like disappoint this person. But taking responsibility, understanding that like you're in control of everything when it comes to your life, right? So you fail at something, you take that responsibility, and now you have control over what kind of direction you're headed towards, you know what I mean? And it helps you grow as a person, and people start viewing you much differently. I mean, that respect level goes up, right? Because they have someone they can trust, they can like follow, kind of. Okay. So that's part of it, yeah.
Again, very good answer, Michael. Very good answer. What did you learn from that mistake, like that failure?
Well, I think it's tough to pinpoint one, just because there's so many different failures that I've had. Like obviously some are like huge compared to others. Exactly. But every failure kind of offers you a different perspective on like how you can change what happened. You know what I mean? So it's tough to say what I learned from one. I mean, I've learned like discipline, how to get rid of procrastination. There's like I still slack off here and there. Like I'm not perfect, but you learn, you know what I mean? It's like getting to a different level. So every failure kind of offers you a different perspective on how you can improve yourself.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's different every time.
Okay. And, you know, like, I know I've mentioned it before, but on a personal note, like, what advice would you like to give to people that struggle with, you know, like, you know, I'm failing at this, I don't think I'm going to make it, I don't think I'm going to succeed, I don't think I'm going to get that job, I don't think I'm going to graduate.
Well, it's exactly like you're saying, right? It's when you find something that you love or you're doing something, you have two options. You either have the perception of like coming up with excuses continuously. Like I had an example with I think we have to go to break.
Yes, we'll be going on break and we'll be coming back to wrap up Overcoming Failure with Michael.
You are watching MalaikaTV.com, the first Afro-Caribbean web television in Canada. New shows, new content, and a new image. Watch Malaika TV and enjoy it.
Salut! Vous aimeriez promouvoir un événement social, une activité culturelle ou même un album musical dans la diaspora afro-caribéenne? Ou encore, vous venez d'ouvrir une nouvelle entreprise, que ce soit un salon de coiffure, une pharmacie, un magasin de produits et services internationaux. La solution est si simple. Achetez une page publicitaire sur malaikatv.com et recevez une plus grande visibilité dans toute la diaspora afro-caribéenne du Canada. Pour plus d'informations, contactez-nous au d.finance@malaikatv.com.
Welcome back to Louco St Fleur again with Michael, an intelligent brother. We were talking about personal note you like to give to the people struggling with, like, you know, always failing at something. I know it's probably being repetitive, but what's your personal note on that?
Well, okay, anytime you like I said, you decide you want to do something, right? It could be anything like the change in direction in your life, a new project, anything. You have two options at that point in time. You can either you have the perception of thinking of 100 different excuses of why this doesn't work, or 100 different excuses of like why it's going to work, right? For example, I had a talk with someone this weekend actually, and like them fulfilling their dream of like being a DJ, right? And right away the excuses started coming, like what happens if I put in all this time and I don't make it? Where's the money going to come from? Like, you know what I mean? You could sit here all day and just think of hundreds of excuses for yourself, but you have to train yourself to kind of have the perception of, okay, what happens, who cares about the amount of hours you're going to have to put in, you know what I mean? It means nothing because right now you haven't done it. So how do you know, right? You could put in 10 hours of work and make it, right? I'm not saying that's the case, but anything is possible, you know what I mean? So stop thinking of all the excuses of why you can't do it and start thinking of like why you can, you know what I mean? Start figuring out the answers for yourself. You know what I mean? Don't worry about like the money, like all those tangible external things, they'll fix themselves as long as you take control and like you believe that you want to do something, you just apply yourself 100% of the time.
Oh wow, that's they usually hear answers like that from parents, you know, giving advice, but that's coming from a young person like yourself. It's very great to hear, and then it's true, you know. Stop saying you can't.
Yeah.
Why not say you can? So before we finish, I'm gonna give you a scenario. Let's say one lady comes in, you know, in your gym, and then wants a free meditation class,
Right.
and then have no money, and then has a gun. And then she's ready to shoot us up because she feels like, you know what, I'm a failure, my family doesn't love me, nobody loves me. What do you do at that moment?
Well, if her thing is like nobody loves me, the first thing is, do you honestly love yourself? You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be looking for external like love or like validation from people unless you truly are comfortable like in yourself as a person. You know what I mean? So the first thing is like, like you're in the right spot, like UMTBC dream. Make sure you're there, you know what I mean? Develop your inner self first, you know what I mean? Be comfortable with who you are, right? And then the path continues from there. So it's like changing your perception, changing your environment. Environment is like so key, like I can't even go on about that, you know what I mean? Being surrounded by the right kind of people who don't look at you as a failure or don't view your failures as such a negative thing. You know, it's just part of the process of growth. You know what I mean? It's beautiful, but the biggest thing is like, the first figure out yourself as a person, get rid of the excuses, and failure is just growth, man. There's nothing to fear.
Thank you very much for coming into Louco St Show. Michael Mole, everybody, and we'll see.
This show is brought to you by our official sponsor. For more information, visit